Double bind.
Double bind.
Double bind.
Double bind.
Double bind.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to also, as Kuru just pointed out, people talking a bunch of shit in towards Black people, and also holding people accountable for what comes out of their mouth. Samaria Rice, who is the mother of Tamir Rice, has recently called out Tamika Mallory on her Grammy performance. I think she was featured in a song by Little Baby, where she had sort of like a bridge part, where essentially she was a spoken word speech that she gave. And so Samaria Rice is saying that too many of these quote unquote activists are using the names of their family members. There as in
deceased.
They're dead, deceased family members who have been victims of police brutality in the system. And somehow these people are able to develop a platform completely using that narrative and capitalizing off of that. So what do you guys think in terms of this sort of trend? Do you think it's something that is problematic, or do you see it as just a...
Trump is becoming the new
Al Sharpton,
and he needs to tread very carefully, because if you've noticed, Al Sharpton has been fairly quiet lately, because I think his dirt has come back up, and the fact that he is capitalized off of a lot of things. Now, mind you, has he brought some things to light? Yeah, but then it just became self-serving. And that's why when you talk about these woke people and Black Lives Matter, is I do not lose the message. And I really think these people are losing the message. And every time there's anything civil rights, here comes Trump now. And I'm like, if you're getting money for the family and yourself, that's great. But there are no policy changes behind any of these things that are happening. So what are you really doing? We're still getting shot in the streets. There's still no more schools in our neighborhoods. There's still no more job programs in our neighborhoods. What in the name of Christ are you really? Yeah, you're getting justice monetarily for these families, but you're not getting justice for the victim and or the future victims that we're trying to avoid becoming future victims. So what are you really doing? Extreme, yes. And the path that they're taking right now, it doesn't seem like long term. Just like with Democrats, they talk every 4 years. They talk a great game. Well, actually, barely, because in this last election, everything was about this man is crazy. This man is crazy. I knew that in 2015, but okay. I heard a couple of policy things here and there, but what the Black Lives Matter program and institutions should be going after hard is changing policies. And they should have went ham on those Democrats that have the audacity to have on those kente cloths that time when they were all kneeling. Well, I said they should have went, they were like, oh, hell no. They should have went ape shit on Schumer and Pelosi and the rest of them. Are you kidding me? Take off the damn cloth, take that friggin' pen and put pen to paper and get some policy that's going to help my community. Get my no
So Kenya, do you think Tamika shouldn't be so quick to be hopping on top 40 hip hop songs? And
I think she's self-serving.
You don't think she's really about the work?
I'll just leave it at that. Self-serving.
Twaz, what's your take on some of these what I call pop activists? Should they be allowed to kind of build on their their quote unquote platforms or their social activism and be able to kind of financially capitalize off of that? Or do you think they should be actually applying themselves deliberately in working for change?
I think it's great when anybody is starting a conversation or starting a rhetoric or a dialogue about any issue that's important. No matter how important we take them or not, is a whole other metric which to base them on. But the fact that people are talking about things and actually having something to talk about, whether we agree with them or not, but it has some weight and it's of some consequence, I think that's something we need to give some credit to, because I think that's important. You know what I mean? Even though we have to take issue with what they may not be doing or may not be doing enough of, at least that's a springboard in which we could start something. That's how I feel about it.
So you're concerned about the long-term goal and not just the short term.
Isn't that a bit disingenuous? Isn't that kind of like a vapid, empty sort of posturing and gesturing publicly? Like, for example, you guys remember DeRay McKesson, right, from the Black Lives Matter movement a couple of years ago, about maybe 3-4 years ago. He's the openly gay face of BLM. His signature is the blue vest. Yeah, that's his signature. My point is, the reason I use him as a perfect example, he's younger than Crump and Lee Merritt and a couple of these other people, but he was everywhere on the talk show circuit. I think partially because I think the Caucasian audience loved how articulate he was. So in some ways it was like, oh, let's parade a nice, smart speaking black man on TV versus someone who may not be as articulate.
Again, he's non-threatening. It's non-threatening.
He's non-threatening. There you go. I'm using him as an example in the sense of where is he now? And I've read that this man, there's tons of money that's unaccounted for. And, he's just kind of used the celebrity and celebrity, to use French, to just kind of be in the limelight, but there's very little he's actually done. Again, none of us are seeing him now. Am I mistaken? Like, we don't hear his name anymore. It's almost like he's, yeah. So, you know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying, Twaz, in the sense of there is a fine line between being able to live off of what you do professionally, but also making what you do deliberate, authentic, and impactful.
I think one thing that D-Ray did do was he set up a template and a kind of, I guess, a lane for the next D-Ray. You know what I mean? A kid with
that would be social media and
galvanized. No, but I'm saying, but that would be a kid that knows how to harness the social media resources to pull people together, knows how to uses that social network to harness numbers, because that's at the end of the day what it's all about.
Right.
But gentlemen, ladies, do you know also why he was
blah blah? I think that they're aware that no policies are ever going to change, and that spotlight will last, but only for so long, and they're trying to capitalize and strike while the iron is hot.
Good point, because I think you mentioned Kuru, you mentioned Al Sharpton, and then if you guys really think back, pre-Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson was the pre-Al Sharpton, even though they're about the same age. You know what I mean? In the sense of an activist who comes in the public light.
And you remember.
I remember
what Jesse Jackson said about Barack Obama, and that's to show you the coonism. The moment he saw another righteous black person doing better than him in the life, he couldn't take it. All these people care about is sensationalism, their name up in the lights and on the screen. And sad part about it is most of them are narcissistic sociopaths, just like a lot of them on the Republican Party. They just hide it a lot. And they hide it behind, I'm trying to do something for y'all. And you know why that young man from Black Lives Matter was also pushing it back? Because he was openly gay, and when these ultra woke Negroes, some of these hoteps, started coming out and saying, look, he's pushing an agenda. This gay black man, he's going to be the face of. So some black people afraid of that part.
Yep.
Probably push him to the back of the part.
Yep.
Right. Instead of caring about the fact that he was one of the few that got up and actually pushed this whole movement in the first place. Once again, we start to lose.
And shout out to our gay brothers and sisters out there, because when you really think about it, so many, like, for example, Martin Luther's March on Washington. One of the biggest organizers that a lot of people aren't aware of is Bayard Rustin. I think is it Ruspin or Rustin? I got to get that right. But he was an openly gay man at that time, which of course was obviously dangerous and huge taboo. He was also a really good confidant and friend of Martin Luther King, I've read. And if it wasn't for him, that march would not have happened. He was one of the major organizers. So we definitely got to shout out the gay community for being part of the larger battle of oppression and against oppression of white supremacy. So we definitely got to teach out.
You know why Martin Luther King liked him? Because with that guy around, he could have all the girls to himself.
And not only that, but he had some special skills that only he had.
Yes, I was just thinking that.
You said special skills.
Even if you look at Messy Jesse in Chicago, he has nothing but a whole bunch of thick, big butt women that work for him. And I'm sure he was smashing one of them.
Let's talk about some Kirk Franklin. I'm going to cut that out. But real quick, we are not going down there. You know what? Let's leave certain members of society who rest in peace to rest in peace. But let's talk about Mr. Kirk Franklin. This is our last segment here, and his son. Some of you may have heard or seen a video that went viral. His son was arguing with him, and his son's name is Carry On or something, and he, Kirk Franklin was going off and cussing him out, and people are saying, well, he's a man of God, he shouldn't be doing this, da-da-da.
Okay, if you think I'm bringing this paper, let me say it like this. When you start disrespecting, you need to get your skinny back out the goddamn way before I put my foot in your. I dare you. I dare you. I dare you. I dare you. Shut the fuck up. I'm old. I will break your neck. Don't you ever disrespect me. I did it. I'll break your neck. Is that a threat? He just hung up the phone.
What do you guys think about that scenario?
Listen, that damn Kirk Franklin, I feel like he's a damn crook. He been a crook. Every couple of years is some issue. First, he was a sex addict. Now he cussing out his son. Like, you know what I think it is with Kirk Franklin? I think he really wanted to make it on the mainstream. He couldn't do it there, so he went to gospel.
But what does that have to do with him, like cussing out his son, though?
Just meaning he's still a nigga. Right in front of it. That's it.
Snead, you were about to say something.
Amen. Go to somebody else. I'm trying to process that.
Twaz is busy just dying from the other end. Kuru, you always got something. Go ahead.
Oh my God. Whatever Kenya said, that part.
Because
Whatever Kenya
son,
said, that part.
He's a parent. He's a parent. Okay. I mean, well, let's keep it 100. All of us have probably been cussed out by our parents at some point in our lives, especially even
speak for yourself. I was never that kind of kid. No, thank you. I was quiet around my parents.
Okay, no that's problems. You. I listen. I've had some slight battles with my parents, but the fact of the matter is, this kid, and it's been said, he grew up. It was tougher for him than some of Kirk's other kids.
Yes.
So I guess
because he had him as a teenager.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of resentment probably amongst the kids and amongst them, and we understand that. And listen, if you got a problem with your pops, handle it with your pops. We don't need. We frankly don't care.
Right.
Then the church folk, shut the hell up, because they be cussing and carrying on the church parking lot.
Okay.
So always judging people.
Listen, show up to church in a tight dress and see what happened.
Hold on before y'all continue. How many of y'all actually been to church recently? Y'all talk about it.
I go to church. Well, when it was open, I was still going to church. Yes. And I agree with, if you wear a tight dress or something inappropriate, somebody's trying to check you, but you can't check me. But anyhow, carry on.
I grew up in the church. And I'm still currently church adjacent. Okay, so
church adjacent. What the hell does that mean?
Church adjacent.
What does that mean?
If you don't know, that already tells me enough about you. So I'm gonna leave that alone.
Oh, you calling me a heathen?
So you make your smoothies with holy water?
You know what's interesting about this, though, because I actually watched Tamron Hall. She interviewed Kirk Franklin and his wife a couple of days ago about this. And apparently the son, this has been a long battle with the son. The son has some sort of mental emotional problems going on. Yeah, he's got some issues going on. And they've been in counseling for years. He wasn't aware that this conversation was being recorded. The son only uploaded a portion of the conversation, because what we don't know is that he came back on the phone to talk with his son with a mediator, and they both apologized to each other.
They don't play that part.
It's like,
we don't know what Karan said to him.
And this is another thing about the media. We have to be very careful when it comes to our own. Don't believe the hype. There is always an agenda. But when it comes to Black people,
right,
we always want to vilify and crucify each other when we don't even have the whole entire story.
Right.
And even if we didn't have the whole entire story, that's that man's son. That's his fucking business. And if he wants to threaten that little motherfucker and cuss his ass out because he's acting a fool, guess what? That's his right. And who cares about his religion? He is a human being first. Okay? Because Christians all the time do far more worse.
Exactly.
They're cussing out their child on a motherfucking phone call. Please, shut the hell up.
Preach, amen. Oh, it's funny.
I kind of want to know what Quran said to him to rile him up so much, though. I really want to know.
He cursed at him, and then he was bucking back at him. Talking about, I dare you, shut up.
I think, and Kuru, you said, good. I'm sorry, Steve, good.
I wish a
chill
child.
Pill, Snead. Chill pill.
You know how I feel about disrespectful children. I don't care if you're 33, 43, whatever. I'm still your parent. Like, I'm 40. Well, how old am I? I'm 44 this year. I would never tell my mother to shut the fuck up. Never.
Right.
But you'll think it, though.
I'll think it, and I might, like, man, I might do a gesture or whatever, but to say it, there's this level of respect, and I think this generation just does not have respect for that parental figure. Like he said, we are not equals. You might be a man, but we are not equals, and we will never be equals, because I will still be your father no matter how old you get. How many times your parents told you that? I know everybody on this panel, right, on this episode, their parents just said, I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. I don't care how old you are. How grown you think you are, I will still you up.
Mine did.
Yeah, I'm still very respectful when I speak to my dad. Even though sometimes we don't necessarily get along, like I still hold him in high regard, and I've never cursed at my parents. I don't even feel right cursing in front of them.
I'm guilty of, the difference between me and Carry On, he's 33 and I'm 10 years older than he is. And also he was, I think, purposely trying to bait his father, if you listen to the conversation. But I will confess that in my relationship with my parents, which is, I was brought up in a very authoritarian way, so I don't have that pink and fluffy relationship that some people may have with their parents. But I was very happy to be grown, because now I can fully express myself versus when I was younger and being shut down each time. And I have had situations where I've had one where I actually cussed at my mom. And I'll be honest, 20 minutes later, I was feeling so bad. And of course, I went into her room and apologized. But that is rooted in the respect that I have for her. I love and respect my parents, despite not being on the same page with them most of the time. I definitely it's the why some people, and Kirk himself, would take offense to his son talking to him like that. And Kuru, you said that kid, he's 33. That man knew what he was doing, and he has emotional issues. His mom even said it in a separate interview on YouTube. You can find that, and she said, all three of them need to work it out, meaning Kirk and the mom and the son. So
and another thing, when you have somebody like Kirk Franklin, who is hovering at 4'2", he has a Napoleon complex too. So you're not just going to talk to him, and he has always something to prove.
Yes,
he wasn't taking that lightly from me, and especially my child. And once again, there are things that we
and his celebrity.
Yeah, listen, Alec Baldwin cussed out his children too. They are human beings, and they are parents. And especially if you're a celebrity parent, and you know that your kids are most likely doing better than you were, or better than a lot of the kids out there, y'all might want to shut the hell up because you're spoiled. So that when you they shouldn't talk to the kid like that.
No, well, he's the opposite. He's the opposite. I think he's
not spoiled
because he wasn't there when Kirk was blowing up. So he probably didn't get what he needed, and all of that is
which is understood, and they could work out
in the dynamics.
And then he adopted his wife's daughter.
Yeah.
So she's getting all of the benefits of Kirk Franklin, and he's not.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
Once again, how is that helping Black? We have other things we got to worry about. Y'all should work that out in therapy. The rest of us move on, please.
Right. I agree with you. Like, we didn't need to hear that whole conversation. Like, that's between them. Like, why do we care about this?
Well, and that's why a 33-year-old man shouldn't be trying to bait us.
We care about it. We care about it because Christians, the Black Christians, always want to take the moral high ground and tell them what we should and should not be doing. We should care about it because it brings up a conversation. Like the Black church really needs to chill out. Like seriously, like let that man raise his child how he feels. You cannot, not everything can be, overruled by religion.
Right.
The Black church is buried in hypocrisy, and we all know that. And as we are going forward, we are definitely calling out the Black church and the church period more often. And I see what you're definitely saying. Like, y'all Black people act like y'all holier than thou, but y'all do more mess than anybody.
Closet full of bones.
Y'all should come to my church. Come to my church and just look around.
The same Black, people, the same Black Christian folks that's talking this mess were the same people that are shaking hands with Trump in the Oval Office. Have a seat.
True.
So Twaz, I want to ask you this, because as we're talking about the Black Christian church, and I'm listening. So in the Muslim temple, is it since you've done both? Is within the Muslim religious culture, is it from what you're familiar with, do they have as much of an input into the the religious members' lives the same way that the sort of church does, or is it a little less hands-on?
It's all tribalism. It's all tribalism. It's all power politics. It's all coalition building. You know what I mean? And any religion or gathering of people, there's levels to it. People in power that do what they got to do and dibble and dabble on both sides of it to get what they want. So you can put that to the Black Muslims. You can put that to the Christians. It's all the same game. It's all the same game. Like I can't even call it as far as like a religion thing. Like, is there hypocrisy in people in a religion that do things that may be considered illegal, or have done things that are illegal, or partaking in things that are illegal? Or come on, it goes both ways. I can't even say, only the Christian. No, like, and so that's not the. So what's the common denominator here?
Human beings, man.
And people in power, and people in power, and people with influence. You know what I mean? So they can, and people using their influence to their benefit to benefit with the resources. So that's the common denominator.
Amen.
And so I can't put this to the Black church. You know what I mean? There's not a Black church problem. This is a family problem. So that's what that is. And I think that's what we should leave it at. A Black celebrity, a family has to be the spotlight, or a father has to be the spotlight. So how we want to weigh that?
Speaking of family, thank you, family, for joining me once again.
You saved family.
Not at all. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to another episode of The Double Bind. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Once again, I am your host, Springle. I'm thanking my panelists of guest hosts. We have Kenya from Brooklyn, Twaz on the West Coast immediately, or currently, I should say. Then, of course, Snead out of Jersey, and then Kuru out of ATL. Thank you guys for joining me. And listeners, don't forget to follow us on social media and all major streaming platforms. Signing up. Thank you for tuning in. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and now Clubhouse, as well as all major streaming platforms. Don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. And we'd love to hear from you, so leave us a comment.